Are you ready for rapid fire?
I've been really chomping at the bit all day.
I hope you're excited about these. So I got the idea for this first question. I listened to Kevin Clark on his podcast, and he talked about the fact that, like he says in the NFL, Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel being the play callers creates an elite quarterback. So can you apply that? Do you buy or sell Mike Denbrock calling plays, creating an elite quarterback for Notre Dame?
I buy this partially and I sell this partially. I think that
so it's a hold, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's ultimately a hold because I do think that Mike Denbrock calling a game does add talent, or basically makes the quarterback better. But I think the situation with the San Francisco, just looking at the 49ers, because that's who you brought up, Shanahan and the front office are deliberately not spending money on a quarterback. Like they you know what I mean? Like they wanted the route of the young quarterback. And I think it's to me, like, and this is a little bit exaggerated, but I feel Kyle Shanahan views Brock Purdy how Harbaugh viewed JJ McCarthy at Michigan. He has talent. He can do enough. But ultimately, he's kind of in there to keep things steady, not turn the ball over, kind of follow the script essentially. And again, that reminds me of JJ McCarthy and Harbaugh, because Kyle Shanahan is the one drawing up these plays. You know what I mean? It's not like Brock Purdy is making, elite reads and that sort of stuff, which he does at times. I'm not taking that away from him. But when Kyle Shanahan draws up the perfect play, all he's got to do is make sure and go out and execute at the end of the day. And so I don't think that that's necessarily the 100% the situation with Denbrock and his quarterbacks. But I think that he unlocks kind of, maybe potential in quarterbacks that they didn't know necessarily was there.
He's been to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G and Brock Purdy, for starters. So, like, when you look at him, I think that you can definitely say that. And we've got a lot of people, of course, on the buy train on the Mike Denbrock thing. So as we look at it with Mike Denbrock, let's start with Desmond Ridder, who he coached at Cincinnati. 3-star recruit out of high school who turned into a 3rd-round NFL draft pick. And, didn't light the world on fire right away, but he was a 4-year starter. He redshirted for a year. And then the 4 years that he was the starting quarterback, Mike Denbrock was calling the plays. Got a little bit better every year. And ultimately, 3-star quarterback, 2-time conference player of the year, leads Cincinnati, the only group of 5 team to ever get to the playoff, over 3,300 yards. And like when you look at 30 touchdown passes, 65% completion percentage in his last year. And then, of course, everyone wants to point to last year with Jaden Daniels, which you do, because he completed 72% of his passes and threw 40 touchdowns last year. Now, and he ran for almost 2,000 yards in his last 2 years, 57 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions in his last 2 years for Jaden Daniels. Now, he had more talent around him than what Desmond Ridder had at Cincinnati, but at the same, he was playing against a very tough, level of competition, one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. But I think, like with both of those guys, the final year was obviously their best year, and they kind of built up to that. But now, like if you're going to drop a guy like Riley Leonard into the mix, I won't say that you're necessarily going to see the exact same kind of jump that Jaden Daniels saw from his, junior, or I guess whatever that red shirt, his second to the last season to his final season, the Heisman season. But I definitely think that there is every expectation that we are going to see a pretty good jump from Riley Leonard. At the very least, health being the key thing, assuming that he's healthy. At the very least, we see a very similar season to what he had a couple of years ago at Duke, but I think it will ultimately be even better than what he had at Duke. So I'm a little bit in the hold as well, but I'm leaning much more toward buy than I am to sell.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when you look at track record of Ritter and Daniels and et cetera, I do think I am more so on the buy. I just think that Shanahan, obviously, just looking at the direct comparison of the question, I think Shanahan is just an elite, play designer. And they just have elite
and the
talent
difference there
at the
too,
skill positions as well.
And that's a massive, and like when you look, Mike McDaniels was the other one. And obviously, between Waddle and Tyreek Hill down there in Miami, Tua has a ton of talent around him as well that Mike Daniels gets to play with. And obviously Mike McDaniels, he came out of San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. So they are obviously, very, very similar, but he has elevated Tua's play in the short amount of time that he has been there. And I think to an extent, Shanahan is definitely a little bit more of a puppet master, I think, than even McDaniels, and I think even more so than Denbrock.
Yes.
But I think that, again, like when you look at the experience with a guy like Ritter and what they were able to do with him at Cincinnati, and a guy like Daniels, who was really not even an average quarterback. I think you'd have to say a below average quarterback in his time at Arizona State before he got together with Mike Denbrock. I'm leaning even more toward the buy now, as I kind of talk my way back through it again on Denbrock and the impact that he can have as the play caller, especially with that kind of quarterback at his disposal. So the LA Dodgers and the LA Lakers each won championships during the 2020 season that was interrupted by COVID. And ultimately, both of those sports, baseball and basketball, finished in the bubble. They haven't won titles since then. And there are a lot of people who put asterisks, kind of next to those championships that they won. So let me ask you this. If Notre Dame had won a national championship during that same 2020 season, how would you view that championship now?
So if Notre Dame played the entire season in 2020, like a full, normal schedule, 12 games, the playoffs, and then won it all, no asterisk. But if it was a condensed season where they played maybe 6, 7, 8 games and they did a postseason of like, a game or two and they won it, then I'm not buying it. And that's the reason why, going back to the original question, I don't buy the Dodgers because they played such a shortened season. It wasn't a full MLB season. And the reason why I'm more lenient about the Lakers one is COVID popped up pretty much around the end of the season for the NBA, right? Like they had
It came up for both sports at the same time. Baseball shut down. I guess it was not at the same time. It was in the middle of their season, but they were, right. They were both shut down for months before things started back up again.
The thing was that the NBA season, it was pretty much done. They condensed that season down to like 100 games or something, maybe 50 games it was. The NBA practically played the entire season. It didn't really impact the seeding where it ended.
Talk about Notre Dame, Jesse.
They played an entire playoffs. And so that's kind of where I'm at. If Notre Dame's, season was more like the MLB, I would have probably an asterisk next to it. But if it played out more so how the NBA played out, I would feel completely fine with saying that they won a legitimate national championship. That's going back to Notre Dame, how I'm tying those two into.
Well, remember, this was the season they joined the ACC on a rental basis. They joined the ACC for that one season, went undefeated during that season before, of course, losing in the ACC championship game and then in the playoffs. But I guess my point, baseball, I can see a little bit more because their season was essentially condensed down to the length of a college season. So there is, I think, a little bit of an asterisk there. But at the same time, everyone played under the same rules and the same circumstances. Now, with college football, it was a little different because you had all these different conferences starting and stopping, and the Big Ten almost completely whiffed on it before they decided to come back and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, for the most part, especially once you got to the playoffs, like everyone was essentially playing under the same set of circumstances. So I don't see an asterisk. And if it was Notre Dame that had won it all, they would be the national champions. Just like they crowned a national champion that year. There's no reason to look at it any differently. Like the NFL, that was things were a little bit different in the NFL. You didn't have fans in the stands and all that kind of stuff. Nobody knocks Tom Brady in Tampa Bay for beating the Chiefs that year in the Super Bowl. They still won the Super Bowl. So I'm not looking at it any differently. Good point, Stymie. Notre Dame saved college football. Remember that? Notre Dame, the program that saved college football by joining up with the ACC and
they did
spearhead, getting everybody to play. That's exactly right. So SMU head coach Rhett Lashlee said during his first ACC Media Day press conference that he challenged Florida State head coach Mike Norvell to play him in the EA Sports College Football 25. He said maybe the winner should determine the coin toss for their game and their head-to-head matchup in September. My question for you, who would you like to see Marcus Freeman play in college football 25?
So I have two answers to this, and I stuck to their 2024 schedule. The first one, and I know this probably sounds like the easy answer, but I would love to see him play, Clark Lee and the head coach of Texas A&M. And then the reason why I want to
Mike
see
Elko.
Sorry, Mike Elko, not Clark Lee. I got my coordinators.
Got your former Irish defensive coordinators turned around.
Yeah, I did. And the reason why I would go with him is because of the history. Like, both of these guys have now been at Notre Dame. Both of these guys are defensive-minded head coaches. And so I'd like to see that battle, right? And then not only that, but Riley Leonard obviously was the quarterback at Duke last season. So I would like to see how he would go about, basically playing defense against Riley Leonard, because he's seen him up close and personal. So I like all the backstories there, both of them, going through Notre Dame, both of them being defensive coordinators. Now both of these guys have coached the same quarterback. So yeah, I think that would be an interesting matchup. And then the other one that I thought would be interesting would be Lincoln Riley, because it would be clash of basically offense and defense at the end of the day, right? Like, who's better overall? Is Marcus Freeman's defense better, or is Riley Leonard's offense ultimately, Lincoln Riley's offense ultimately better? So I think, and it's fun because that's the first game of the season and the last game of the season. So I think those ultimately would be, fun matchups for different reasons. I don't think I would put the coin toss on it per se. I think I would.
I don't think I would either.
I think I'd go like fields, maybe like which end of
the field.
Yeah. That's
not a bad
where
one.
I would go. Or maybe who's gotta pay for the after game meal for the players or something like that, right? Just something a little bit more fun than just the coin toss.
You do one of those wagers like the mayors of the like the teams playing for championships, or the governors of the states when schools are playing for championships. It's like, we'll put a pork tenderloin meal up against barbecue, or whatever it happens to be, something like that. I like the Elko. That was the direction that I was leaning as well. Just because he does have the connection back to Notre Dame, and he did obviously coach Riley Leonard as well. My first instinct was actually Brian Kelly, but then it's like Brian Kelly can't be the answer to everything, for one. And two, like, if I was going to see Marcus Freeman against Brian Kelly in anything, I would want it to be some kind of physical challenge. Like, I wouldn't want it to be, a video game, even though Freeman would probably school him in the video games too. But I would want it to be, something physical, like do a Rich Eisen 40-yard dash or something like that. Freeman against Kelly. I think that would
like
be
a
good.
combine.
Yeah, exactly. That would actually be really good. Like, they can do some cone shuttles or something, do some backpedaling, see what that looks like.
I would go out to say that Freeman would probably, or Brian Kelly would have like double the times that Marcus Freeman would.
Yeah, this is actually a good one. Like, you could go Freeman against BK.
For some recruits?
You do a little pink slips. Derek Meadows is on the line.
I like that idea. Pink slip recruit edition.
That's right. Fill in the blank. Former Notre Dame cornerback Julian Love coming in at number 95 in the NFL's top 100 ranking to make the list for the first time in his 5-year career. Is blank.
It's awesome. And, you go back. I mean, it's awesome and it's well-deserved, right, for someone like Julian Love, because I think when he first started out, he was majority, he started out as a strong safety, and then they moved him over to defensive back. And then last season, or 2022, he was back to strong safety. And then this past season, where he was actually elected to the Pro Bowl, he was just playing regular old safety. But I think the biggest difference between his first couple seasons and his these latter 2 seasons is he's not only the interception numbers have gone up, but also just the pass deflections, right? It's not all about getting the interceptions. It's still pass deflections, getting in throwing lanes, etc. But the stat that really jumped out to me is in 2021, he had 66 combined tackles. In 2022, he had 124. Last season, he had 123. So he really upped his game of being a physical, basically secondary player who's not only going to play you tough in coverage, but he's also going to come down and make a lot of tackles. So really that was kind of the difference maker the last 2 seasons for me in terms of Julian Love's game, is he literally doubled his tackle output these last 2 seasons.
Exactly. And there's a big difference, obviously, between playing cornerback and then moving to safety, especially when you're talking about going. You
got to come down and feel some alleys.
No, that's exactly right. And I think his instinct, I think that you've really seen it come out, just his comfort level playing the game the last couple of years, because as you said, he had 124 tackles his last season with the Giants. And
that's like linebacker numbers in terms of tackles.
Yeah. I mean, but like with the Giants, it does show how bad their linebacking core was also, because it has been bad for the last few years. And I don't think that it was probably great in Seattle last year as well, because their defense has been in decline a little bit. And obviously Pete Carroll doesn't have a job anymore as part of the result of that. I mean, I'm just glad he wasn't that good when he was still with the Giants, because he is starting to peak right now, and it's much deserved. He had a career high 4 interceptions last year, and you're absolutely right. It just seems like he has gotten much more comfortable playing safety, and it's awesome to see him having this kind of success, especially since it's in the Pacific Northwest instead of the Northeast. Harrison Smith, by the way, another former Notre Dame guy who's been a regular in the top 100 list pretty much in his career, came in at number 93 as well. So it was kind of fun to see a couple Notre Dame guys come up right away when they started releasing it. Yep. A couple of safeties.
I'm sad. It looks like Brent Smith just hopped into the show. You missed my Brock Purdy shot about 10-15 minutes ago.
Oh boy. You're just going to try to stir it up right now. By the way, Scott Gibbs, in case we didn't put this up earlier, thank you for the super chat. He big on the pinstripes.
I went back and looked at him. I don't mind them as much as I thought. I don't think I'm as down on them as you might be. I mean, is it my preferential look? By any means, no. But I thought that they pulled it off. I thought that they looked pretty sharp. I like that they didn't do pinstripe on the jersey as well. That would have been too much pinstripe for me.
I think so too. Anthony wants to know the preferred Cowboys uniform, early to mid 70s with the dark gray / silver pants, or the current light bluish silver pants. I definitely like the 70s version better. If you notice, you just took me off the screen. Is this your favorite uniform combo right here? This is
my favorite uniform combo right here.
Navy blue, white numbers, the white shoulder, what do you call those? The shoulder sections.
Basically, the shoulder pads are white with the Cowboy star on them. Yeah. And then it kind of goes into the blue body, and then the white pants. And I really like the helmet too, just the white helmet and the blue star.
It's a nice throwback look, and then they wear the white pants with them usually as well. I'm partial to the navy blue, everything, or the royal blue, I guess, not the navy blue. I'm partial to the royal blue that they used to wear more of in the 70s. I don't like this navy that they've gone to the last few years. In terms of
they're the
pants,
only team.
I like the silverish pants as well. I don't know where they got this bluish tint that they've started doing.
They're the only team in the NFL that wears 2 different shades of their own primary color.
I know. They're very bizarre.
Wait, I think I found
because the white home uniforms have royal numbers, but when they do wear the blue, they've got navy blue. That's it right there. Little Calvin Hill action, baby. Yeah.
I'm also a fan of, I had another one that I wanted to share. I don't know what your thoughts are on these. To me, they're kind of like the inverse of the ones I just had. I love their color rush uniforms.
I don't like them as much as you. They look solid though. They look solid.
Just the all white with the navy blue. I think those look pretty sharp. But the ones that I brought up, they usually wear those on Thanksgiving. Those were it seemed like they always used to wear those jerseys on Thanksgiving, the navy blue with the white shoulder pads and then the white helmet with the star on it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had
Anthony's
Jason
right.
Witten
That was
jersey.
Bob Hayes, not Calvin Hill. But yes, number 22. Bob. That was actually a little bit before my time. I'm not quite that old. But they were right around that same era anyway. All right, fill in the blank. ACC Network on-air personalities referring to DJ Uiagalelei as DJU during their ACC Media Days coverage is blank.
Is lazy and shameful. You know, like it is your job as a media personality, whether you're on, the radio, TV, whatever it might be. Your job is to understand the pronunciation of people's last names. I just find it very disrespectful that you can't even call someone by their full name. And again, to me, it's part of your job. Like I remember every time you would do the women's basketball games and I would go with you before the games, you would always sit down and ask the other person, the other team's radio broadcaster, how to pronounce the names. And not only that, but you would write it down and break it out per syllable. So like there was no chance that you were going to mess it up. And it's like, yes, his last name is hard to say, but if you say it like 20 times consecutively, I'm sure you're going to figure it out. Right. So
That's
it's
right.
like, it's just, to me, it comes down to pure laziness. And I if I'm DJ, I'm mad because at the end of the day, like that's my name. Like I've worked hard to get to this point. The least you can do is get my name right, or at least try to pronunciate my name right.
Right. And yeah, you're right. Like it is completely lazy. It is weak that you are on the ACC network and you've got a guy who started his career for, at the time, the most prominent ACC, team in the ACC. He's been around for a couple of years, and you're not even going to, be professional enough to attempt to say his name. So you're just going to say DJ U. It's like, it's literally your job to do that. If you're going to take the paychecks for being on TV, you need to, know how to say
part of your
players'
homework.
names right. Yeah, he's literally the most high-profile quarterback in the conference right now, and he's a national. And you're right; it's like it's not that hard. Like you say it, you write it down phonetically with dashes and whatever you need to, and then you just say it over and over and over a few times. It's literally, that's how I learned how to say it the first time, because I remember when Notre Dame was, when Notre Dame played Clemson. What's that? I guess it was in 2020. It's like you've got to know how to say it, because you're gonna have to talk about the guy a few times. So you write it phonetically. And fortunately, that's the thing too, is like these schools in their game notes and all this different stuff, they write these things out phonetically. So like this shouldn't be such an issue. And there were even, like, I started to look at some of the women's basketball rosters for teams that Notre Dame is going to play this upcoming season. And there are actually some schools now on the roster on the website where they actually have a button you can push
Nice.
And someone says it for you.
It's like when I used to Google Spanish words and be like, how do I say this in Spanish? And then you click it and it's like, oh, okay, that's easy.
Yeah, that's right. So come on, man. You got to do better than that. Sorry. So Netflix is set to release a documentary called Sign Stealer. It's going to be told from the point of view of Connor Stallions, who, of course, was the man in the middle of the Michigan sign stealing scandal last year. Scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you in Sign Stealer?
Oh, I'm a 10 out of 10. I need to understand the other side of the story so I can either A, give my Michigan fans more crap, or B, kind of relent and be like, okay, maybe I was wrong here a little bit. You know what I mean? I need to, because there hasn't been like an official report or an official, findings, I think, made public yet. Obviously Stalions probably didn't agree to do this unless it kind of cuts him in a different way to maybe be like, okay, he wasn't doing, sort of the bad things as possible. But I think I think we deserve to hear both sides of the story. And again, I just want to get to the bottom of what was actually happening, right? Like, what does he actually explain the Venmo payments and people, sitting at other games with their, camcorders out and etc. Like, I guess I just want to know from his perspective where he drew the line of what was cheating and wasn't cheating at the end of the day.
Right.
Because he
like
ultimately
in his mind,
he did something.
Actually cheat? Yeah.
Right. Like, he knows he did stuff, but what was he doing to justify whether or not it was crossing the line of cheating or not cheating? And, maybe I doubt that it'll go this far, but maybe it'll clue in, was there more to the operation than just him, right? Like, what was this a ring and he was controlling this piece and that piece? I kind of want to see that maybe the dynamics or the breakdown of how the whole operation was put into play.
I'm 10 out of 10 interested. I'm a little surprised. Like, Tommy and Stymie have very little interest. It looks like I'm very interested, but what I don't want to hear is a bunch of excuses instead, like that kind of stuff. I want actual, I want the truth. I can handle the truth. I want to hear all the details of stuff that was actually going on. I don't want a show that's just going to put this guy on TV and let him dance around what actually happened. Like, so I would hope that if Netflix is doing this, and I'm sure that they're cutting him a pretty nice check.
That's what it comes down to.
Doing this. Yeah.
He's not agreeing to do it if, one, he's not getting a lot of money, and two, it probably makes him look not as much as the bad guy.
Because he's not coaching in college football again. So, he's got to get money somewhere. I'm surprised Jim Harbaugh doesn't have him out there in Los Angeles yet. But I mean, I want a lot of details. I'm definitely interested, but if we get like 20 minutes into this thing and they're just, well, hemming and hawing and here's who really was whatever, I want to see some details in this. So I'm definitely interested in hearing what he has to say. Jesse, how many teams from the NFC West can win the Super Bowl this season?
I want to say 1.5, but that's not any fun. So I'm just going to go with 1. I think it's the 49ers. I don't think the Cardinals are anywhere close to there yet.
Agreed.
I think the Seahawks are just kind of another 500 team. Like,
Agreed.
They might beat some teams here, probably lose to some teams that they shouldn't, and end up around 500. The Rams is what really is the half piece for me, because I do believe in Sean McVay. He's a great NFL coach, a great NFL mind. They got the defense fixed last season after kind of starting off slow, so it seems like they got things figured out. But Aaron Donald is also retiring, so that's obviously a big piece. And then I think offensively, like, their offense has never been like super sexy by any means, right? Like, it's Matt Stafford and probably whatever year he's going on now. Maybe like Cooper Kupp and Puka. Are obviously like a healthy. You want a healthy.
Was that a cop out? Was that a cop out on saying Puka Nakua's name?
No. I just didn't want to get roasted in the chat. But like a healthy Cooper Kupp, a healthy Matt Stafford. A Puka Nacua, if he can repeat what he did last season, because it was an incredible rookie year, combined with maybe they can get some good defense again. I feel like there's just a lot of, like maybes or a lot of things that need to kind of go their way. So that's where I was kind of stuck on them being a half team. But I mean, we all know the San Francisco 49ers are going to be a Super Bowl threat just about every season that they keep this roster and Kyle Shanahan, in charge of ultimately being the play caller at the end of the day. So that's where I'm at. I struggle with the Rams, so I'm just going to stay with 1.
Yeah, I think the Rams can make the playoffs. But kind of like what we were talking about with the Browns yesterday, maybe they win a playoff game. Like that is like a wild card game, and that is kind of their ceiling. I think the 49ers are it for me. I think they're the only team from the NFC West. The odds are against them, though, because the 1970 Cowboys and the 2017 Patriots are the only teams to ever lose the Super Bowl one season and then come back and win it the next year. And that 2017 Patriots team is the only team since the Buffalo Bills run of 4 straight Super Bowl losses to even get back to the Super Bowl the next year. So it is very, very rare. I mean, just like look at the Eagles last year. As great as the Eagles were 2 years ago, started off at least with a good record and then completely folded last season by the time November rolled around last year. It is very, very tough.
Well, they can't help that Jalen Hurts is a fraud at quarterback. But
no, they can't. You're right about that.
They just have a running back that plays quarterback.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as rosy as everybody thinks it's going to be.
I think the Eagles are on a more slippery slope than the Cowboys are.
Yep. We'll do the NFC East in the days to come. Tommy wants to know if anyone's coming to town for the Hall of Fame game. You're going to slip down and go to the Hall of Fame game?
Bears and Texans this season, if my memory serves me right.
Yeah.
If I was going to go to a Hall of Fame game, it was going to be like 2 or 3 seasons ago when the Cowboys played Pittsburgh, and I think Jerry Jones also went in that season as well. That would have been the year I was going to go, but like because it was the Cowboys and Steelers, tickets were like more than a regular season game. It was insane. The only fun part would to see the Bears offense live and in action. You know, like, and the thing is it'd only be like maybe a quarter, right? And so it's like you're there and then you see what you want, and it's like, am I just going to sit out the rest of these quarters to see who's going to make the roster? You know what I mean? Because that's ultimately what it is guys just fighting for roster spots at that point. But it would be fun to see the number 1 offense led by Caleb Williams. It'd be kind of his, debut ultimately.
Have you broken the news of where your nuptials are going to be held on this show?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's too many people around.
You don't want that fan
nearby
stuff. You don't want us to have to put up security like so.
There'll be security. We had to hire, like the venue forced you to use security.
Oh, Holtz My Beer says the most conflicting thing in the world is being a huge Notre Dame fan and a huge Bears fan, and also having to cheer for Caleb Williams.
I feel so bad for you and Vince.
Should join the Vince D'Addario club.
You should still ask Vince if he thinks that Caleb Williams is going to be a bust this season, because I love that he was riding that train.
Last time we talked about it, he was still in on that. So I don't think he's off it yet. I don't think he'll ever get off it. He's back, though. He's back.
Is he on tomorrow?
He was on. Well, he was on with Brian today. He's on this show tomorrow.
Oh, convenient.
Only day. By the way, programming note, tomorrow will be our last show for this week because we'll all basically be off Thursday and Friday. I'm Cincinnati bound for a concert Thursday. So
that gives everyone else the day off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Friday, who knows where everyone is.
Yeah, and we got all kinds of scheduling things to figure out for next week that haven't been figured out yet. So, all right, Jesse's got to go do some yoga, so we will wrap it up with that. Appreciate
Anthony,
you being here.
This is the only time you'll see me rooting for your boy Skeens when he's pitching against anyone else in the Central.
Say no to the Cardinals.
Had to get that out there. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Hit the like button before you head out. Appreciate Kurt Weiler, Florida State reporter, joining us earlier. Appreciate you, Jesse, as well. Have a great rest of your week. We will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.
Peace.